So we're live. Good evening, everyone, virtually at the meeting, and anybody, all of you out there watching. My name is Frank Doden, and welcome to the January 11th, 2022 meeting of the Yellow Springs Planning Commission. I'm calling the meeting to order, and would the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, Doden.
Here.
Krieger.
Present.
Stiles.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Zaremski.
Here.
Thank you. Also present is Village Solicitor Brianne Parcels and Planning and Zoning Administrator Denise Swear.
Thank you very much. First thing I'm going to do is review the agenda for tonight. It's a pretty brief agenda. We'll have a review of the minutes of our previous meeting. We have communications. You said the sort of the booklet, the book from Matt Raska, right? That's not part of the printed package, but is part of the electronic package. Is that correct?
That's correct.
About zoning. Then Lisa, are you going to be doing a council report? Okay.
You bet. Mm-hmm.
And then we have a time for citizens' comments, and what that's for is for any citizen comments for any items that are not on tonight's agenda. And then we have just one public hearing tonight. Claudia Brahler, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did.
Oh, good. Of the Veganry restaurant has submitted a conditional use application to serve wine and beer at the establishment. And so we'll do that. Then old business, new business, possible discussion regarding subdivision regulations and other zoning code amendments, agenda planning, and adjournment. So let's go on to review the minutes. Now we the Planning Commission met on December 1st, 2021, where we reviewed and approved the minutes of the I guess it was the November 11th, 2021 regular meeting. So those have already been read and approved. What we're going to do now, and what Judy has put up on the screen, is review the minutes from that special meeting on December 1st, 2021. So this is pretty much it. It was a very short meeting just to review minutes. So if members of the Planning Commission want to look this over real quick.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the December 1st, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, Stiles.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Zaremski.
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes.
Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the only communication we have is the zoning zine, the book magazine thing on zoning by Matt Raska. Did you want to say anything about that, Judy, or?
I will only say Matt's making a real effort to try to creatively reach out to as many people as he can to let folks know that he wants to be able to change the zoning for the village in creative ways and kind of make it more inclusive, provide more options to folks. And so I think he's been very creative in his outreach, and he's trying to distribute it broadly. And my thinking is he'll probably want to suggest at some point that Planning Commission maybe want to do a review of the zoning code or something of that nature. But really that's, I think his intent is to call attention to some ideas that he's got and some concerns that he has.
And like I said, I received a copy of it a couple of months ago and read it, and have other members of the Planning Commission had a chance to see it before getting the packet today?
No.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of really fascinating, interesting ideas in it that I think are worth talking about, thinking about. So I'm looking forward to that discussion at some point down the line. I think that'll be good. So
I think I've seen two different booklets on the related topic. Does that sound right? That he's been involved with?
I'm not sure if there's two. I think I've just seen this one myself.
Yeah,
Okay.
there wasn't, the first one, the one that I saw was not 73 pages. So I think there must have been two.
Okay.
Yeah,
An,
okay.
an updated version. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Actually, I have one quick question relating to that. The whole idea of revisiting zoning, because I know that's been discussed in different places. I'm assuming that's a village council decision to proceed with that. Am I correct or not?
The village council is the main policy-making body, and the zoning code is a matter of policy.
Okay,
Planning commission's role is anytime you have something as far as the zoning code goes, because the planning commission's tasked with applying the code, giving a technical review and making a recommendation on any changes to the zoning code.
okay, good. Thank you.
And just historically, that has always been, the efforts have gone through the zoning administrator and planning commission as impetus, and then they have generally served on technical review committees, and generally a consultant or outside expertise is generally hired. It's a pretty massive undertaking.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Lisa, council report, please.
Sure, glad to do that. So it has been an incredibly busy January for council. Like, we've literally had like 100 million extra meetings. We call them retreats. I'm not quite sure that's an accurate name. So I want to start just by saying I am the newly appointed council liaison for Planning Commission. I'm super glad to be that. I've been the alternate for 2 years, so I think that made sense. And I would like to welcome our newly elected council member, Ms. Carmen Brown, who's going to be our new Planning Commission alternate. And I see that she's here. She's waving. Carmen, do you want to say hi?
Hi,
Hi, Carmen.
happy to be
So
here.
glad you're here. So the council met for our first meeting of the year on January 3rd, and that's when Carmen was sworn in, as well as welcoming back Councilperson Stokes and Hausch. And we elected Hausch as president of council, and Stokes is our new vice president. And, you know, as always, we heard petitions and communications, and the majority were related to the PUD, the Ober PUD, both in support and against. And then there were also communications related to parking. We heard a very, for me, invigorating update from Agraria. They're doing marvelous work, and I'd encourage you to listen to the reply to hear more about specific projects. Specifically, there was some discussion about that connecting path and the timeline for completion, and the council urged that that path needed to be completed. Additionally, the YSDC provided an end-of-year summary led by President Lisa Abel, and we approved a request for funding for the MLK Day activities. Then on the legislative front, we had a first reading to adopt flood damage recommendations from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to update our ordinances. And the council asked to see some updated maps to learn more about the floodplain. And the full legislation ordinance can be found in the council packet. And additionally, we approved salary adjustments for Judy Kittner and Josue Salmaron. We looked at 2022 goals. We authorized the village manager to apply for a $250,000 grant from the Greene County Board of Commissioners on behalf of WISO for equipment for the schoolhouse project, not building improvements, for stuff, you know, that's required to run a station. And we extended the climate action consulting project for 30 days. We then met again for an additional meeting on January 7th, primarily to discuss commission assignments, which have now been completed, and voila, here I am. And at that meeting, we also discussed our plan for yesterday's January 10th special meeting with Oberer. And then on the special meeting with Oberer about the PUD, we saw a presentation with Q&A. I would say, to summarize, that questions included primarily zoning clarifications, access from 68, options for apartments, and environmental concerns. And there's going to be a town hall, as some of you talked about earlier, for tomorrow evening for additional citizen Q&A. So that is my update. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lisa. Anybody have any questions for her? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is the citizens' comments. So if there's anybody out there watching who wants to make for a comment about some item that is not on tonight's agenda, you either have to literally wave your hand to try to get the attention of whoever is hosting the meeting, or hit the little button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to electronically raise your hand, and I'll give people a few seconds to see if there are any citizens' comments out there.
Just for general, I know that our phone caller is muted and there will be a public hearing open on the hearing. I know, Frank, that you will explain that. I just didn't want agitation to occur. There will be a public hearing opened on the hearing that you are discussing tonight.
Yeah, but we're not hearing anything on citizen comments. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the public hearing section of the meeting then. We just have one public hearing tonight, the conditional use application from Claudia Brahler for the Veganry restaurant. So Denise, would you like to give us your summary, your report on that, please?
It's a very short summary. The Veganry restaurant opened. Claudia can say if it has actually opened yet. I'm not sure. She was hoping to be open sometime, I think, by the end of the year. And she's gone through she was one of the people that went through our building department. So that was an interesting experience, I'm sure, for her. But this restaurant, typically restaurants in the downtown business area are permitted uses. They don't require coming to Planning Commission unless there is alcohol involved. And so she is coming here tonight because they would like to be able to serve beer and wine. And, they take care of the licensing issues. This is just an approval from Planning Commission for her to be able to go ahead and move in that direction. I went ahead and included language regarding the patio, outdoor patio, because that has to be tied. That does require conditional use approval for restaurants. And I know that we'd already gone through this process for the Emporium, but not being 100% sure if she needed to also seek that same approval, I thought it was better for us to just include that language as well for the outdoor patio. It would be the same patio that people would be using for the Emporium, which they already received approval on. That also brings to mind that if that outdoor patio was ever used for beer and wine right now, as we'd mentioned when the Emporium conversation took place in that hearing, it does require, it would require a DORA, some sort of a limited DORA. And I don't know whether the businesses downtown are going to approach the village for that or not. A limited DORA, you have to have, I think, at least 4 liquor licenses or type of license in order to seek that. So whether or not that comes to fruition, I just don't know at this point. So really right now what she's seeking is the approval for the serving beer and wine in her at the establishment and in the existing outdoor patio area if and when they ever do come forward with the DORA. That's all.
Do any of the members of the Planning Commission have any questions for Denise about the report?
I have one concerning the potential of outdoor serving of alcohol. I thought instead of a Dora, it could also, the other approach would be to have the space be fenced, like some of the other downtown restaurants.
True, you could do that. The problem there with that property is that they have to have access. There's apartments at the upper level, and the entrance for those apartments is where the outdoor patio is. And if you have a locked gate, then you also have the issue for her being able to have customers come to her restaurant, because her restaurant is at the rear of that building. So these are all things they would need to figure out, and that's just nuts. I think the only way they probably could do it is through a Dora,
Yeah,
where they wouldn't have to have a locked gate.
right. The complexities of just the physical structure.
Yes.
Well, I also wonder if there would be actually like a safety issue of having a lock gate in the rear of a property that has residential there in case they need to evacuate the property or something like that.
Right.
That's like a fire safety. I'm not fire, but I don't know. It just seems like
Can I
having
interject?
lived in lots of apartments in my life, you don't want to end up against a locked gate.
Yeah, we're not interested, honestly, in having alcohol outside. I don't know if that makes the conversation shorter, but at this point in time, it's really only the D1, D2 for getting beer and wine inside. I think that there are so many logistics that, as Denise had mentioned, it's not that it's completely off the table at some point in time, but I think there are so many logistical issues like everyone's talking about that I think at this moment in time, from my standpoint, we're wanting for people to be able to have a glass of wine or a beer we're a restaurant, so it's with food. It's not a pub type atmosphere. It's small, and just people that would like to have a glass of beer or wine with the food. Now, I don't know if that is. I'm not 100% positive of the conversations that have been held with the Emporium as far as outdoor beer and wine consumption. I just don't think that that's at the top of the list right now, at least for me. There's just a lot of work left to do on that patio and things like that. Like I have to have a safety rail up and some things like that. So the patio at present isn't approved for seating. That's the first thing I'm going to be working on. And then I guess I've not really held the conversation about beer and wine outside. So I was interested in hearing what you were saying about that to this point, Denise. That's more than I knew.
Yeah, well,
already.
yes. So Planning Commission did that's Claudia Brahler, if you're wondering. She's the owner of the restaurant. But the Planning Commission already approved the use of the outdoor patio. So in the summertime, springtime, you would be able to use it as well if they're going to approve this tonight for your food service and soft drinks and things like that. The conversation with Kurt was that the only way we could see that, Planning Commission could see that happening, is through a limited door because of those logistical things you mentioned and what Lisa just brought up. It'd be really hard to do that when you have apartments upstairs and having a locked gate, and plus you wouldn't be able to get to your restaurant. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I understand it better. I was, that was the first I'd really heard you sort of talk through the whole thing. And so then, getting it a second time like that, I get it now. Yeah.
Denise, can I ask just a quick point of, I'm not clear on it. If a Dora were to be approved, would that not then just de facto give that establishment, which already had a liquor license and the ability to serve alcohol, to then allow patrons to go outside? That would not need to be a separate approval by Planning Commission, or am I incorrect?
I don't think it would be a separate approval, because if you're approving this outdoor patio for their use now, I mean, you can ask Brianne, but I don't see why, because we don't have anything in our code that ties the alcohol with the outdoor patio.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I just another comment on the Dora, because I've been in 2 different locations where there were not Doras, but the outdoor, where you could have your drinks and walk between establishments outside. There's also a strict boundary line. And so it's not like people are going to be like going out in the alley and drinking and things like that. The boundary lines are very, very distinct. And like at 521 Wayne Avenue, we were the very last establishment where Crafted and Cured was. We were the very last establishment where the Dora ended. And I mean, it was like the second you hit that curb, no outdoor drinks. The Dora guidelines are really pretty strict. It's not like just an outdoor
Referral.
drinker. No, thank you. It's who wants that? Not me.
Okay, do any members of the Planning Commission have any additional questions for either Denise or Claudia at this point?
So this is sort of an educational question for me, but how would our process proceed differently if the direction was a Dora as opposed to what's in front of us tonight in our packet?
I'm going to defer to Brianne, but I'm pretty sure probably that would be a council decision on a Dora. Brianne?
A Dora is a council decision, and the Ohio Department of Liquor Control also has to approve it. So you actually have to get participation from the businesses that already hold liquor licenses. So that would be, I guess, Lisa, putting a cart before the horse determination in terms of Department of Liquor Control. As Claudia referenced, they have very clear demarcation about where you're allowed to cross with an open container. Otherwise, like Denise referenced, you actually have to be within a gated area that you cannot exit in order to consume on premises and not have a Dora. So that's the big difference, is that, you would have to have buy-in from the other establishments as well as council.
Got it. And Dr. Brahler, what I understand is you're also saying that if liquor is not served outside, there would just be signage that said, "Don't take your liquor outside. It has to be consumed inside." Is that accurate?
Well, those laws are pretty clear too, because you can't leave establishments with open containers and open drinks already. That's everywhere. That isn't, I mean, even if you have the alcohol license, nobody can just walk out of an establishment, with a drink or with an open bottle of beer. The Dora would allow some of that, or like the Fora that we had, or the one in Dayton, because I've been in 2 other areas where they did pass that. Oddly, there was very little of the actual, people just don't really exercise it that much, which is kind of surprising. But usually you go in and you want to order something to eat and have a little drink with it. You're not really wanting to, walk around outside too much with your drink. But, you can never control how people are going to, what their preferences are there. But no, nobody would ever be able to walk outside with a drink, with an alcoholic beverage of any sort. At all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That's
I think it's understood. Yeah, right. I think it's pretty well understood by people, but if signage were common or necessary, then I'd be glad to put it up. I know I would enforce it if anybody were trying to walk out with a drink.
Right, because that becomes your liability if they do that. So
oh yeah, no, they won't. Yeah, no, good point.
Yeah.
No, my least favorite word.
Okay, any other questions before I open the public hearing? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this conditional use application. And Judy, was there somebody that was wanting to comment on this?
Yeah, and I'm asking to unmute. No, it's not.
I'm told I am unmuted, but I don't hear anything anymore.
John, you are unmuted. If you could just state your name and you are good to go.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is John Cannon. I do own the property that is directly across Keith Alley from the restaurant in question, the Veganry restaurant. And I do have a parking lot there. And of course, I would be concerned if people drinking alcohol came into that parking lot and they would disturb the tenants who live in the building I own there. So everything I've heard implies that such things are not to be worried about. But if they were to be worried about, I would worry about them. So I'm not at all worried about people sipping alcohol while they are eating dinner inside. But I would be concerned if people with open bottles came across Keith Alley into my parking lot. So that's all I really wanted to say. I don't think it changes anything.
Well, thank you very much, John. Are there any other members of the public who would like to comment on this conditional use application? Again, either wave your hand and the host will acknowledge you, or you can electronically hit the button on your computer screen to electronically raise your hand. Give people a few seconds to raise their hands. Okay, not seeing anything. Okay, all right, so then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for any final discussions or questions anybody has. No? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the restaurant to serve alcohol, and that they can, I guess, not have alcohol, but they can use the outdoor patio for food and non-alcoholic beverages.
I'll second that. Is there any further discussion or questions? Okay. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, Green,
Yes.
Stiles,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Zaremski,
Yes.
Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Claudia, and thank you for John for participating as well. So, all right. That takes us up to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. Do we have any old business? I didn't see anything listed. Huh? Okay. So the new business, there was a no discussion regarding subdivision regulations and other zoning code amendments.
I've got this one.
Okay.
So we have subdivision regulations that are not compliant with revised code 71109. And in 2019, there was an Ohio Supreme Court case that said home rule does not trump that section of the revised code when it comes to your deadlines for plat action. So we are looking at needing to revise that to get that compliant with 71109. And to do so, we will be submitting something to council that basically is kind of a compromise, because we've got our notice requirements. We've actually got a planning commission that does meet monthly, but we've also got notice requirements built into our code that would take it to where we need our applicants to agree that planning commission meets monthly. We're going to submit it to planning commission. And generally, planning commission's the body that has the ability to approve plats for our major subdivisions. So in theory, the way it's set up now, if someone wanted to challenge our subdivision regulations, they could submit an application to Denise the day after the deadline to get notice out. And because planning commission couldn't act within that 30 days, depending on how the calendar falls, it would be deemed approved if planning commission does not act within 30 days of the village getting that final submission. So we've let council members know of this issue. The city of Troy actually litigated it last year and lost. So I have sent an email with that court case to all planning commission members, but we're letting you know that this is going to be going directly to council because it is something that's a result of this recent case law that we have to amend our subdivision regulations to comply with the revised code.
So, Brianne, I just want to clarify. So what you're saying then is it's not going to have to go through planning commission. You're just letting us, planning commission, know that it's going to be a change and you're going to take it directly to council because of the timing.
Yeah, because of the timing issue, it's something of urgency.
Seems to make sense. Any questions?
So that's one piece of it.
Okay.
The other one, and this I need to check with Brianne, we also now have a building department. And Brianne, is that going under, or is that already something that council has approved, or do we need to put it into a new section of the codified ordinances?
Yeah, we did create a new section of the codified ordinances.
Okay, so that's been taken care of. So what the other amendments that we need to make is any reference to Greene County building regulations within our zoning code we just need to change that language since we now have a building department. And also, one of the things that's come up with the public works director, as you know, a year or two ago, we allowed for uncommon lots, and he has run into some issues with that when we've approved lot splits. And so he is requesting language in there to require that there is a build ready approval process through the Public Works Department prior to the allowance of a lot split. And the reason for that is is Johnny on here right now? I thought I saw him.
I thought I saw him.
He was earlier.
He had to go to another meeting.
Oh, did he? Okay. So
he had to go to a tree or something, tree committee.
Okay. So we had an uncommon lot split recently. And the problem with that is that the owner of the property who did the lot split, he had an electric overhead line. And Johnny had said, you need to have that line underground because this house is going to be built behind that. You can't build with an electric line overhead. We didn't have anything in place to require that ahead of the lot split, and he never made that change. And plus, they also then tapped into an abandoned sewer line instead of the correct one. So it caused a lot of problems and ended up costing us money because the Public Works had to make these changes. And it was a weird situation because this was a prefab home, manufactured home, and through HUD, and it doesn't. And through that process, through the state, they don't have to go through Greene County building regulations, because had they gone through Greene County building regulations, they would never have let them do that without moving those lines. And so, so we have this situation now, and we just want to put some language into the zoning code to prevent that from happening. So I'm going to be bringing that to you at the next, hopefully at the next meeting. Brianne, did you want to talk anything about the addressing standards?
Just that Denise and I have been discussing this for almost a year because based on annexations over the years, there are some, we have in the code what is the baseline in terms of where all the addresses count from. But because of annexations and whatnot over the years, there's no standardized scheme for addressing. So in terms of, apartment A, apartment B, half addresses, and we've of course, got ADUs as a sort of recent development. So we were looking at getting some consistency particularly for things like, okay, is it 431.5 or is it 431, unit A and unit B, those kinds of things.
And although zoning does the addressing, it's not in the zoning code, is it? It's somewhere else.
No, it's under a separate section of the code. I think it's called standards or something like that.
So would this need to go, Judy, to council before planning commission considers this to be added to be changed, codified?
What we would look at is moving it to the planning code, not the zoning code, but the planning code, because it is part of planning.
Oh, okay.
Right now it's in, I think it's streets, subdivisions, and utilities, which,
Yeah.
again, it's addressing.
I don't know, Judy, do you want to weigh in on that?
I don't see why that would need to go to council prior to coming to planning commission. It's going to go to council.
Yes.
And it's planning commission that's weighing in on whether this is a more, just an easier way to handle addressing, because you're the people looking at the code. So to me, it goes first through planning commission to see, is this viable? Does it make sense? And then on to council for their weigh-in.
Okay, so those are the things that I like to bring forth, hopefully at the February meeting. And then there is that other one with Antioch. There's also another one. Antioch is all under educational institutions, and they have lots that have been there already. But if you follow the educational institutions setback requirements, they would never be able to build on these lots. So there needs to be some sort of language, and I got an idea for that, of a simple solution to, Brianne and I've talked it back and forth as well, about being able to make it so that they don't have to come for each individual lot that might be sold in that area, doesn't have to come for a variance, that they could at least follow the residential code that's abutting or adjacent to that educational institution district. So it's interested in bringing that. And then as far as a zoning code overhaul, I think that's going to be a council that definitely has to come from council. And I've already indicated that's more than what staff could take on. We would have to have an outside consultant involved, because it is going to involve charrettes and different types of public meetings for public input before we do this. And when we did it, the 2013, it was a year-long process with a consultant. So to me, it's I know the community is talking about it, and Matt Raska is very eager to see some changes, and I'm sure that the council will support some of those changes. I know there are council people who have already brought it up. But I'm just saying that if that happens, we're going to have some sort of consultant involved in that. It'd be too big of a project for us too big a lift for planning commission, I think, at this point.
Well, and you might it would need to be on council goals. It's a significant time, staff, and financial investment, major enough that it would need to be on council goals before it was launched. So maybe that's the conversation that begins to look at a 2023 goal or something of that nature. But I think it's good to just have that in mind in terms of the enormity of the project itself, because I have certainly had a lot of comments from people sending emails and several from council folks just tossing it out as if it would just be something that could be accomplished in a couple of months if we just squared our shoulders and got to it. And I think that messaging needs to be clear on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's
I
pretty much
totally
it.
agree. I totally agree. I think that falls in the bigger than a bread box, and I'm not saying that it's not important. It just, we would need to really plan for it and budget for it and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just anecdotally on the addressing, It just reminded me of, I have a friend who used to deliver pizzas for Domino's in St. Paul, and in St. Paul, Minnesota. And there was a very long street with old houses, and they were all numbered in the order they were built.
Oh, boy.
And so
Oh, wow.
the only way to deliver pizza or mail there is if you memorized the entire neighborhood, because
But I used to deliver
think we should go
flowers for my
that
mom, so I can relate. But the section that we're looking, again, from moving out of streets, subdivision utilities is chapter 1022, because it hasn't been updated since, let me look here, 1987.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
we're looking at moving 1022 into the planning code.
Okay, anything else on agenda planning? Is that pretty much it? Okay, we're down to the bottom of the agenda then for the night. A brief meeting for once,
Right.
which is good. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
And, all those in favor, say aye or wave.
Aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Okay. All right, that's the end of our January 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
It won't make it.
That's amazing.